Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today we'll be discussing about a succulent that is very easy to grow and tends to multiply much faster as compared to other succulents. This succulent belongs to the genus of Graptopetalum. It's called as Graptopetalum Macdougallii. Now guys, ideally we know that our Graptopetalum varieties, almost all the varieties have this purple pink tone. Some of them have this purple grey tone, but this is a very unusual variety from the genus. You can see this does not have the pink tones, it is more on the green shade. In fact, it stays green throughout the year. Probably if it tends to receive a good amount of indirect bright light, you might tend to see a light blue color on it. But usually throughout the year, it tends to stay slightly green in color. Now, because it is a variety of Graptopetalum, it tends to go dormant during the summers and its active growing period is during the winters. So during the growing season, that is during the winter season, you might tend to see it more in its green shade rather than blue. The blue shade will be present only during the dormant season. Now even during the dormant season, this succulent does not completely shut down its growth. It tends to slower its growth, but it still continues to grow. But you're going to see a little bit more bluish tone to it. Now guys, as we have spoken about this earlier as well, any succulent that tends to remain green in color should not be exposed to direct sunlight. So the same follows for this variety as well. Try to give it indirect but bright light for a long period of hours so that the succulent does not stretch. So I have been placing them in indirect bright light. Whenever I have put them out in direct sunlight, even morning direct sunlight, they don't tend to do quite well. Now talking about the soil requirements remain same as we use for our other succulents. The soil should be loose, porous, well draining, but this particular variety can handle very slight moisture in the soil but not soggy wet soil. Now guys, as you can see, the leaves are very thin, which means that it cannot handle too much water or it cannot store a lot of water, which means it would require a little bit more watering as compared to other succulents. Apart from that, this succulent is not drought tolerant, which means if it remains underwatered for a really long time, then it will start to get dried up and it might eventually lead to dry rot. So you need to be extremely careful. You need to have a proper watering schedule when you're growing this particular variety. The propagation for this variety is very simple. As you can see, these are all the runners, the offsets of this particular variety. All you have to do is just go ahead and cut off the runners and put them into the soil. It's very simple. Now I'm not quite sure about the leaf propagation because I've never tried a leaf propagation with this variety, because it's very difficult to get a leaf out of this variety because the leaves are very delicate. So I have not actually tried leaf propagation, but I've been very successful with separating these offsets. It's very easy, and as you know that leaf propagation takes a really long time, so I didn't want to pay much attention to the leaf propagation. I was quite happy with separating the offsets. And as you can see, all of these pots that you can see over here, these all started from a very small little bunch. I just kept separating the offsets and you can see the amount of collection that I have right now. And as I said, they easily tend to root and they start to grow, so there is not much of an hassle. So what I would suggest is, rather than going for a leaf propagation, because again getting the leaf out of it is going to be very difficult. Usually the leaf tends to break half, so the best way is to separate the offsets and you can start growing. You can see all of these collections were started just with one bunch and you can see how they have been growing. It's very simple. They tend to grow really fast. Don't give them any direct sunlight, just keep them in indirect bright light. Try to maintain a very slight moisture in the soil and you will be able to see how quickly they start to propagate and start to multiply and grow healthy. Now talking about pest issues, yes, there would be pest issues because they tend to grow in a very tight cluster, in a very compact form. So it's very easy for the mealybugs to hide in between them. So whatever formula you have been applying, try to do that. If you want, you can even sprinkle some cinnamon powder every 3 weeks. Try to clean out all the dry leaves, because this is where all the mealybugs and all the pests, they tend to take shelter under these dry leaves. So try and clean as much as the dry leaves as you can and you will be able to have a very good and healthy collection. Talking about the pot material, I think a plastic or a ceramic pot would work out really well because it retains very slight moisture in the soil. Keep the pot size of around 3 inches in depth. As you can see, these plastic containers are around 3 inches in depth, so they tend to work out really well. They do not keep the soil wet for a very long time. They do not keep the soil moist for a very long time, just retains very slight moisture. And you can even use these succulents in a hanging planter as well, because over the time when this succulent starts to mature, it is going to put out a lot of runners. As you can see, all these offsets, and when they tend to trail downwards, it tends to look really beautiful in an hanging planter. So guys, that's it for today. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.